took some looking, but I found the quartz trenches at Musclow Road. Friend gave me a pin. Unfortunately, Google Pins and Google Maps tend to not be the most accurate and useful tool sometimes, and especially in places where you have low coverage, and this is one of those cases. So I overshot the place because I was following the pin, and I had to trounce back through the bush to actually find the spot. But now that I found it, I can actually start poking around and seeing if I can find anything. I did notice this sticking out of the ground. It's a busted up large smoky quartz crystal by the looks of it. But we're gonna poke around and hopefully find something like a nice plate or a couple nice large crystals. And we'll just see what we can find here. So I did a quick 5-minute kind of poke around in like some of the exposed tailings or discard piles. They're technically not tailings, that's not a correct term. The correct term is discard piles, though a lot of collectors like to use the word tailings. Tailings refers to like processed waste from like a mine. So like in cobalt, for example, you'll see some places are filled with like a green sand, and that's the crushed discard material from the mills when they would crush up the silver ore, and then they would dump it out, and that's what tailings are. This is what we would call discard. Now, this location is a location that was collected at a while back already. And as you can see, it's pretty overgrown. Like, there are only a couple spots where people have freshly dug. So it doesn't seem to get visited often now. Though that doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't stuff. I already showed you that big partial quartz crystal. And in fact, I found a couple more pieces of quartz crystal-like plates, some small ones. Nothing super crazy. And I can see here, I see a bit of druzy sticking out. So I'm gonna pull that out and see how good it is. That looks like a nice little piece of druzy quartz. So obviously there's still stuff here. Even in the discard piles, there's stuff that was thrown away. So if this kind of stuff, and maybe there's even better stuff, I bet there's better stuff, there's always stuff that's missed. If this kind of stuff interests you, then the Musclow Road quartz cut might be the spot for you to just poke around for a couple hours, because you never know, you might find something cool. And speaking of which, I got two things cool here. Got a druzy piece up here, and then I can see I've got what looks to be the point of an apatite crystal. Yeah, that looks like an apatite point. That's cool. I noticed already in the tailings some apatite fragments, but nothing super crazy, so I wasn't going to say anything until I found a nice piece. But yeah, look at that. Just sitting in the discard. Still going over the discards. Here's a little cluster. And it's got hematite spheres, which is definitely something that you can find at this location. I'm digging down here and I'm finding that I'm hitting some of what I believe is fresh material. It seems like an eroded vein. And I just pulled out this. I don't know what it is. I don't know what type of crystals these are. They're a bit too dirty, so I'll have to clean them off, but that rolled out. Maybe amphibole. I've seen some amphibole lying around, but I'm gonna continue, and hopefully maybe I'll hit a pocket of quartz or something, or I'll pull out more things like this. I'm just digging away and using my sifter to sift the material, and I've already pulled out a couple pieces that I know for sure are quartz. They're just very dirty. And I also got this little apatite point, and then I've got some maybe pieces. With this type of collecting, unless you got a bucket of water beside you to clean every specimen, if you find pieces that you suspect might be something, always just take it home. With this stuff, when the dirt gets in the points, similar to when I went to South Carolina with the clay stuck on the points. Like, you're gonna rub it off and it's gonna not come out clean off. So that's a good indicator. Sometimes if you see point-like structures and then you rub it and it doesn't come off, then you probably have points. But with this stuff, it's hard to tell if it's quartz points. So just take this stuff home, clean it. If it's junk, you throw it away. If it's good stuff, you keep it, you know. There's no harm in taking pieces back home and just cleaning them, because you never know. You might be surprised. I knew there had to be something here. Look at that. It's not big, but it is a cluster of points. Nice. Not bad. It's a good start. Hopefully we can get a nice plate. But I'm going to keep digging. There seems to be like a concentration of calcite down here. And from what I understand, the quartz seems to usually be in association with that calcite. There is like amphibole and some other stuff around here. But it seems like the quartz shows up with the calcite more. So I'm just going to try and target that calcite as much as possible. That's it for me today at this location. Didn't find too much. Like I said, it's an old site, so it has been very thoroughly gone through. I did find a couple cool pieces, so that's good. And I'm going to continue on my way and go to another site. Just kidding. I'm doing some more surface collecting. I was like, oh, these trenches probably go farther back. I should check that out before I leave. Sure enough, there's more back here, and I was looking through the discards. Found a nice handful of little specimens, and then I flipped over some leaves and stuff, and I noticed this specimen. Small little plate, but it's a plate of quartz nonetheless. So that's cool. So if you do come here, there's more stuff in the back. And you can see actually there's one of the trenches there. And it looks like somebody dug it pretty deep. But I'm going to poke around here a little bit longer, see if I can find any more surface picks, and then move on to my next spot. Here are some of the finds cleaned up. Now, I would say this area is definitely one that's been collected over a lot more. So these are smaller finds compared to some of the larger stuff that used to be found there. Though you can still, every once in a while, somebody gets lucky and finds a nice large plate. I have a friend of mine who did a couple of years ago. I'll see if I can even get a picture of that plate from him. It's a nice, lovely, I think it's like a smoky amethyst plate with some hematite spheres on it. So that might be cool to show you guys. But overall, these are some of the better finds I found. A lot of the quartz here is this like very fine, juicy quartz. Some of it is this like light smoky quartz, but then you get these lovely red hematite inclusions. It's quite nice. You can see it grew in those calcite veins, so you'd have these pockets in veins of quartz crystals running through the calcite vein. You can see how weathered the calcite is. Here's some finer light smoky druze. Here was that one single crystal that I found that has, unfortunately, all those kind of contact points. It does have a little bit of damage along the one side, but it is an individual large smoky crystal. So you could imagine maybe the whole piece that it came off of. That would have been quite cool. But now we just have a heavily contacted jet black smoky quartz point. Now, a lot of the pieces have some sort of hematite on them, which if it weathers, kind of doesn't look that great. You get this kind of really brown, rusty coating. Let's see here. But then some of it is more of like just a dark gray coating. Sometimes these coatings can turn into spheres, which is quite nice. But a lot of these smaller bits I found, they're kind of just covered in this carpet of hematite. This is the only little bit of amethyst that I found. It doesn't really show up well on camera, but it is this lovely light amethyst. You can kind of see a little bit of the purple in there. And then it's got all these tiny little botryoidal hematite spheres crusted on top. And my friend that I was talking about, he found a large plate of this, I believe. Now this was not a find that I was expecting, but there are apparently calcite crystals that you can find here. This one's heavily weathered and etched, you can see, and it's got secondary calcium carbonate coatings on there. I believe they call it like caliche or calc. So I might have to do a quick acid bath to see if I can get that stuff off. But you can see you kind of have these chunky calcite crystal pillars, which I was not expecting. And then on the back, you got, this is probably a fine druzy quartz that's just coated in a hematite coating. So that was an unexpected but pleasant find. But yeah, you can see they're quite heavily etched just from being in the vein for so long. Alongside the quartz and calcite, you can also find minerals like amphibole. Here's a small plate of very lustrous amphibole crystals, or I believe they're amphibole. They might be pyroxene, but I think they're amphibole, just by the looks of them, and by the fractures of some of the crystals. But they're highly lustrous, as you can see. So that's cool. That might be actually worth going back for and just trying to find a larger plate of these, a nice intact one, because that luster is quite nice. And then it wouldn't be a Bancroft area location without the possibility of apatites. This was a larger partial apatite point I found just sitting in the dirt, and then this one was just me digging in the veins, pulling out some of the calcite, and then some of the calcite I noticed that there were some apatite crystals in them. But this brings us to the end of the video. Please let me know what you guys found the most interesting, and please, if you haven't already, do like and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps out the channel a lot, and I appreciate the support. And please, folks, just have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next video.